this video we'll cover for loops. We'll look at how to create one and when we should use one. Let's get started in our text editor. What a for loop does is it iterates over a sequence. A sequence is something such as a list, a tuple, dictionary, or a string. Let's go ahead and define some of these, that way we can see a for loop in action. We'll say list A is equal to Amazon, Tesla, and Apple. We'll define a tuple A, and we'll say 1, 2, 3, 4. Next we'll define a dictionary A, and we'll say key 1, value 1, and then key 2, value 2. Next we'll define a set. We'll say our set will be Mac, Windows, and Linux. And lastly we'll define a string. We'll say string A is I am a string. Now how a for loop works is it takes one of these sequences and goes through each item in the sequence. We designate a for loop by using the for keyword, and then we name what we want an individual item of our sequence to be. This is completely arbitrary, so I'll just use item. Next we define the sequence that we want to iterate through. So let's say in list A. Finally, to end our for loop statement, we use a colon. We'll drop down and indent to the next level, and then we'll print item. Opening up a command prompt or a terminal, we'll execute our script. So Python 3 and then for loops.py, and we see that we iterate through the list A by printing each item in the list. We can do this for each of the sequences above. So if we change list A to tuple A, we should expect to iterate through each of the tuple values, which we do. Next we'll show it for a dictionary, so we'll change the tuple to dictionary A. We'll execute this, and we see that we return the 2 keys of our dictionary. We can do the same thing for our set, so we'll take out dictionary A and put in set A. We iterate through each value of the set. And lastly, we can do the same thing for the string. So let's do string A. Now it may not seem like there's multiple items in the string, but a string is composed up of many string values. So each one of these is actually a string value. We piece them together to make one big string that we can read, but in reality, each one of these has its own value. So we'll print this as well. We see that we returned each of the string values into our terminal one by one. For loops can also have nested statements. So if we drop down and say if item is equal to I, which is the first value of our string right here, we can put an action. We'll end that statement with a colon, and then we put the action below. So let's say print, and then we'll change the uppercase I to a lowercase I. So we'll do this with the lower command that we learned in the string lesson. We'll save this and we'll execute it, and then we should return a lowercase I as soon as we print the uppercase I, which we do. Now let's say you wanted to only print the uppercase and the lowercase I. We can put a break into our if statement. So that means once this if statement becomes true, this break takes us out of the for loop. So executing this, we only return an uppercase I and a lowercase I. This is because the I returned a true value and then we broke out of the for loop. We also have access to the continue command, just like how we have in the while loops. So we'll put that in, and then we'll execute the script, and we see that we get the same return that we did before we put in the break statement. For loops are one of the most common used things in Python scripts. This is because they make it very easy to take an entire sequence and do some action to them. This is just a very basic overview, but we'll get into some more in-depth projects later. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know.